Unit Brave New World explores humanity after the events of the Cold War. I love the way that all three stories are human-focused, rather than dealing with bog-eyed monsters and alien invasion. Instead, it focuses on humanity on the dawn of a new age. Rogue State, as written by Robert Valentine, deals with the transportation of animals weaponised by the rich, ready to go to the highest bidder. Brigadier Bambera has been approached to lead Unit UK by Dame Lydia, but Bambera has reservations. It does feel like quite a large-scale story towards the start, seeing travel between different countries, whilst leading to a climax at the Millennium Dome that's in the progress of being built. As for the flow of the story, I love the way that Kroyach has a pre-existing relationship with Bambera herself. He sees her as a threat, I think, but doesn't like to show it. Bambera is very hands-on, which leads to quite a lot of action sequences, and Angela Bruce portrays the role very consistently throughout all three episodes, and I felt comfortable listening to her as the lead throughout the entirety of this set. It feels very secret agent, Bond style in design. The plot is relatively simple to follow, allowing for lots of time for Bambera to ease herself into the commanding role. She quickly finds an ally with John Paul Severin, who is a recurring character throughout the rest of this series. He's like a Sam Bishop of 90s Unit. He definitely holds the team together throughout this set, and I look forward to hearing more from him in the future, because I have a feeling that he's going to have perhaps a more integral role to play. Episode 2 is Time Flies, as written by Alison Winter. This continues to explore humanity's actions, but this time remaining in the UK, as Unit are called to a seed storage facility, as one of the academics, who goes by the name of Dr. Andrews, has vanished, believed suicide, and another student has been found dead. Another one of the academics at the seed storage facility, who goes by the name of Dr. Grange, is an interesting character, dancing on the line between botany and playing God, which is a very interesting way to see this story play out. This story also introduces the new scientific advisor to Unit, being Dr. Louise Ricks. At this point within the series, I realised that she was the component that was missing from episode 1, because although we had a rather nice establishing story for Bambera and Severin, there was something that needed to be added to both of those characters and their dynamic to kind of make it a bit more interesting, and a little bit like perhaps someone disagrees within the relationship or can at least challenge Bambera. She is a clearly intelligent figure to challenge Bambera throughout this story due to her own personal perspective. They clash, she disobeys orders, but this creates a mutual respect between the characters. She also has a natural dynamic with Severin, often having lots of little squabbles within episodes 2 and 3, but this creates quite a realistic working environment. Ricks is the one that makes quite a number of the breakthroughs throughout this story, which allows her to gain respect from Bambera, stopping a deadly virus entering the population. The whole series does feel very what if Doctor Who continued in the 90s, to the extent that I was half expecting a darker movie-style 7th Doctor to appear at any moment. The sciencey concept of reversing life and threatening biology through tampering with DNA is also a very mad scientist style of story, but works very well with this story style of Unit being set in the 90s, especially given that the humans throughout this story are focusing on humanity's natural progression into this new millennia. Again, it's a fast-paced narrative and the characters make the story flow nicely. Perhaps the one thing that I would have liked to see from this episode was a few additional scenes with the new Unit team together at the end of the story, just to give us a little bit more of a dynamic, in full flow as we enter into the final episode of this set. This volume concludes with Dark Side of the Moon as written by Alfie Shaw. In my opinion, this is when the series really comes together, having now established its main protagonists slowly within episodes 1 and 2. Again, this is a very 90s episode, seeing humanity and the UK expand into space, but it is believed that a previous mission accident in space may have not entirely been an innocent accident, with one party in particular claiming that aliens are coming and they wish to invade. Humanity's return to space is set on building a moon base, but what if aliens are watching? And what if a select organisation at the top is handing humanity to them to invade? This episode is a difficult one for Louise Ricks, as one of the astronauts previously killed in space was Helena, and she was in fact her friend at university. This clouds her view throughout this story, and leads to some great interactions between herself, Bambera and Severin. Bambera wishes to restore order, Severin wishes things to be seen more logically, but Lou perhaps lets her emotions blur her vision. The foe of the piece is pretty much invisible, hiding within people's bodies and claiming to be the lost soul of Helena, who did of course previously die in the crash. She's came to warn humanity of the imminent alien threat. This series does very much feel like it is borrowing story techniques from the Torchwood One series. We are following an organisation trying to protect Earth, whilst also interacting with other corporations and governments. It makes UNIT feel like a real organisation, but very different in approach compared to what we got to see within classic series Doctor Who, as well as Big Finish UNIT, the new series. Already we are starting to see this series develop its own identity, but moving forward I'd like to see more of this, as the series definitely has lots of potential, but Volume 2 has a lot riding on it to establish its identity further, and not make it simply the same as the other UNIT the new series releases. Bambera does shine through in particular throughout this story, having some rather brave moments in the later half of the episode as she attempts to protect Earth. Whilst being the one story of the set to feature a suspect alien interference, or as the Brig calls them, the woo-woo stuff, this story does feel still very human-focused. It's also very odd, and something that I never entirely understood throughout this set is why Bambera is so put off the alien woo-woo stuff, as she so calls it, despite the fact that she is a head of an organisation that leads in investigating exactly that. The series does end off on a little cliffhanger, which certainly hypes me for the next series. I'd love to see this team travel to other countries, as I think that that aspect of the narrative worked really well within episode 1. I'd also quite like to see the UNIT regulars in an out-of-work setting, as I found that this really worked incredibly well to feel closer to the characters within the Torchwood One series. Overall, it's quite a dramatic, fast-paced series with lots of potential, capturing the era of Doctor Who that simply never was on screen. It's a very easy, accessible release for new listeners, and I'm rather looking forward to hearing more in the future. So in conclusion, for UNIT Brave New World Volume 1, as entitled Seabird One, this is a rather interesting start to a brand new series, and overall my reaction to this set is in fact one of quite pleasant surprise. I think that throughout listening to these episodes firsthand, you don't really think that it is developing too much, but what I found was once I got to episode 3, I actually already felt kind of connected to the main protagonists of this series. We are already starting to see some relationships form between them, and I think that that is solely because all 3 of the episodes within this set aren't particularly too bold. They are a very simple plot to follow with a rather simple threat to face, but at the same time this allows us to focus quite a lot on the actual characters. I think it's safe to say that this is very much an introductory set. It's just establishing the groundworks for this series and establishing the main protagonists, and as we head into Volume 2, I would definitely like to see more challenging scripts, more challenging plots to really push our protagonists now we've had the groundwork set within this box set, because there are certainly lots of nice threads that I would like to see developed later within this series, which I imagine is something that the production team are most likely planning to do in the future. So overall, a very promising series with some interesting stories. So thank you very much for watching this review. I really hope you have enjoyed it. Do of course stay tuned on the Host Productions for regular Doctor Who content. Have a nice day, and I shall see you all next time.